Hello and welcome to this video on functions of behavior. Before we get too far into functions of behavior, I want to talk briefly about our two core behavior principles. The first one is that every person wakes up wanting to be successful. It doesn't matter who they are, where they are from, every person wakes up in the morning wanting to be successful in their day. Our second behavior principle is behavior is not good or bad. It's just what we do to get what we want or need. With those two behavior principles in mind, we can then start looking at why do people display the behaviors they do. One of the ways of looking at this is to consider the functions of the behavior. In today's video, we are going to discuss the 4 primary functions of behavior and discuss how those play into why people act the way they do. Every behavior serves a purpose. In order to figure out what that purpose is, we're going to look at the 4 functions of behavior. We're going to also look at the ABCs of behavior, so the antecedent, what happens before the behavior. We're going to discuss the behavior itself, and then the consequences that happen after. So there are 4 primary functions of behavior. Today we are going to discuss attention, escape, tangible, and sensory. The first area that we're going to talk about is attention. So when we discuss functions of behavior, attention simply is when a person engages in a behavior in order to either receive or avoid attention. So some examples of this might be crying, tantrums, unexpected behaviors, or on the polar opposite, it can be when a person is displaying extreme rule-following behaviors in order to avoid the risk of negative attention. So if somebody is feeling like maybe they aren't getting enough attention, they're feeling like they're not connected to the people around them, or they're not receiving the level of attention that they need in a certain scenario, they may display behaviors in order to obtain that attention. A great example of this is if a student is in a classroom and maybe is feeling like they aren't being noticed by their peers, they may display some unexpected behaviors to get their peers to look at them. In the past, this maybe would have been considered something like the class clown. That behavior is being displayed so that others are looking at them and giving them that attention. The second function of behavior that we are going to look at today is escape. So this is when a person displays a behavior in order to avoid something. So oftentimes, the first example that comes to mind for me is when a student will display a behavior in a class in order to get kicked out before a test, or before they are maybe asked to read out loud in class. If you know that displaying a certain behavior is going to get you out of an environment, you are going to be more likely to display that behavior. As adults, sometimes this might look like avoiding somebody at the grocery store. You might see somebody that you know and you really don't feel like you're in a place to have that conversation with them right now, so you duck down a different aisle. Even as adults, we display these same functions of behavior. The third function of behavior we are going to talk about is tangible. So all that means is that you are going to display a behavior in order to obtain something. We do this one all the time, right? We might go to work in order to get a paycheck. When we're talking about students or children or others who maybe don't have quite the same regulation skills as an adult might, we are going to see things maybe like hitting, right? So if a child is on the playground and wants a ball and they don't know how to get it any other way, they may display the behavior of kicking or hitting or grabbing at the ball in order to obtain it. So for this function of behavior, we are going to look for things that this individual is obtaining by displaying that behavior. In the end, are they getting something that they want? The fourth function of behavior that we're talking about today is sensory. Now, sensory is one of those things that we sometimes will display behaviors in order to avoid something that's really uncomfortable. If there is a noise, we may cover our ears, we may run away from it. If it's too hot, we may try to get away from that heat. A really simple way of explaining this is maybe when a person engages in a specific behavior in order to obtain some sort of relief. Okay. So an example of this could even be as simple as fidgeting, rocking, leaving the environment that they are in. They're doing something in order to relieve some sensory need or gain some sensory input. When we look at these 4 functions of behavior, it's a little bit easier to see that each person displays behavior in order to get something that they need. Whether we are trying to get or avoid attention, whether we are trying to get a tangible object or not, we could be trying to escape something that is uncomfortable to us, or we simply could be responding to some internal sensory need. When we look at behavior simply as something that we do in order to serve one of these functions, it becomes much easier to have conversations around behavior to determine why is somebody displaying an unexpected behavior and how can we help them find a better way of managing that. When we look at behavior this way, we realize that we all display these behaviors, and we can start finding positive ways to help people who are struggling. Thank you for joining us for this short video on the 4 functions of behavior. If you are interested in behavior, like, follow, and subscribe so that you can be notified of the rest of our videos where we will be talking about specific functions of behavior and more information about what it can look like and how we can support people who are finding a need in one of these areas. Also, where we're going to review the ABCs of behavior, that antecedent, behavior, and consequence pattern, so we can look at how to support individuals. Thank you for joining us.